This is what we're used to seeing with traditional surveys. There's your nice 5-point scale. It could be a satisfaction scale, an importance scale, an agreement scale. Basically, any scale is possible. But we've made some decision here, 5 points. As I said before, it could be binary, could be 7 points, 10 points, whatever you decide. That's how you design your survey. We do the exact same thing in the social media research space. We make a decision what kind of scale we want to use. So far, I've been making it kind of tricky on you by only giving you a binary scale, red or green, nothing else. In this case, now we've got red and green, but each of those is split into 2. So there's your top box, second box, your fourth box, and your bottom box. So you've got a sense of somewhat agree, somewhat positive, somewhat important, as well as extremely positive, strongly agree, very important. And then there's also the neutral box, the folks in the middle. So, can folks give me a few examples of what might fall into that very negative box? What kind of language would we see in the written space when people are saying something very negative? Hate. Other ideas? Can we make hate even more negative?
Hate, hate, hate.
Yes, and people do that. People will say hate, hate, hate. What were the other thoughts? I didn't quite hear. All caps, absolutely. Expletives, expletive hate, absolutely. So in that case, an expletive would make the word even more. It's not just strictly the word on its own, it's in combination. So on the other side, what could we say that would fall into the very positive box? Love? Anyone else? Also expletives, absolutely. I effing love. Anyone else? The bomb? The bomb, absolutely. So we've got the extremes covered. We know how to do that part. What would fall right in the middle? What would fall into the neutral box? Meh. The flat smiley face? The straight face. Anyone else? There are sorry? The love-hate could certainly fall into the middle. So here are a few examples. So we've got the obvious ones. Really hate, really love. Totally rocks, totally sucks. Then, of course, the swear words, bloody amazing, bloody awful. They have the exact same format. It's just the actual sentiment word that changes the overall emotion. Pretty good, it's nice, I like it, it's good. Those are positive, but they're not amazingly good or stupendously good. It's just generic, it's pretty good. And then, of course, in the middle, the meh, the whatever, I don't know. Other comments that could fall in the middle. There's a Walmart down the street. The book is red. Generic statements. I don't want my brand falling into that generic statement box. I don't want to be a brand that people are complacent about, that they just kind of casually mention with no sentiment whatsoever. That is not where we want our brands to be. We don't want them on that very negative side, but at least we know they have some sentiment if they're on that negative side. So that is scaling. Now in terms of, this one's sometimes tricky for folks. There's lots of variables in our system, thousands of variables, and they all have names. Among the emotions, there's happiness, appreciation, trust. Those are all names that have nice positive connotations. But then some of the variables have more negative connotations, like anger and sadness. So I'd like to hear from you a few examples of how we can use the word anger in a positive way. We've got to fill the top box for the anger variable. How are we going to talk about anger in a positive way? It's a tricky one. I was angry but there were no crowds, the cashier was friendly, and I got a discount. So the topic was about anger, but overall, the sentiment is nice and positive. So I've given you a little help on anger. Can I have some help from you on sadness? How would we talk about sadness in a positive way?
I'd be really sad if this store closed down.
Good example would be really sad if this store closed down. There's obviously some positive emotion towards that store, but we're still talking about sadness. There's a few examples here that are kind of cute. I just love Starbucks. Kind of sad that they know my name. I love, love, love my new best friend, Tyra Banks. How sad is that? So they're outright telling you, I love this stuff, but I'm a little embarrassed about it. And that's very common how people use language. All right, somebody asked me this question during the break in terms of how is sentiment distributed in the social media space. Now, if you think about what people are saying on Twitter, what they're saying on Facebook, a lot of it is, oh my God, that was hilarious, or that was so absolutely ridiculous, that's just stupid. There's people really angry, there's people who are loving brands, all kinds of fanatics saying really extreme and wonderful things. That's the fun stuff. We love to read that stuff. But that is not what the entire internet looks like. This is the distribution from 60 million messages that we gathered from across the internet. So there's Twitter data in there, Facebook data in there, Flickr, YouTube, LinkedIn, the whole assortment of everything we get from the online space. And we've coded those 60 million records in terms of sentiment. So it's not perfectly normally distributed, but boy, oh boy, is that a normal distribution. These negatives, these positives, they're hilarious to read. They're fun. We remember them. We tell our friends. The stuff in the middle is pretty boring. Skip, 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 skip. We forget that a lot of the conversation taking place in the social media space is just kind of, yeah, it's okay. It's boring. It's all right. It's interesting. Those are no fun to pay attention to. But really, the distribution of data is quite normally distributed. Pretty much like data you'd see anywhere else. Let's pop back up to norms. This is one of the things that we really look for from survey data. Anytime we do a survey, we go to our supplier and say, please, 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 based on all the other surveys that you've done in my category, how does my brand compare to your norms? The exact same thing is possible within social media research data. So in this case, we've got Walmart, Adidas, BP, iPod. Well, Walmart could just as easily compare their results to a competitor, Target, Kmart, or they could compare it to the entire category, the norms. So the norms would include Target and Kmart and any other department discount store. Adidas, the same thing. They could decide to compare to a particular competitor, Nike. They could compare themselves to a norm of athletic shoes. They might look at the norm of shoes in general. They might decide that they want to look at norms for the entire clothing, attire, athletic shoe, footwear for an entire industry category. It really comes down to what particular set of norms matter for them. Now, of course, if you're looking at norms, you want to at least be at norms. But once you hit norms, once you're as good as norms, that's no longer good enough. That's basically saying, yeah, I'm pretty average. I don't want to be average. We want to be above norms. But at least start by knowing how you compare to norms.